Well, alrighty. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Jordan.
We're doing episode 3 now.
Man, all good things are three is what my dad always said. So, based on that, this should be the best one we've had yet.
This should be, yeah. I'm thinking maybe 7, maybe a little bit better. That's a little bit more biblical number. I'm feeling that. But the 3s are also very biblical as well.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Exactly. So we have a little bit of Holy Spirit working with us today. That's for sure.
Amen. We'll definitely need it, especially once we get to the question of the day.
Yes, that's true. We're going to be doing a little bit of a deeper question today, is what it seems.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks we've been kind of talking to y'all about who we are, how do we get here, and now, like we always want to do, is we want to be able to pose and answer these questions. The question of the week is something for you guys to be letting us know, so that we can make sure that we're talking to you and being relevant to you and helping you understand what's going on. And today I think the question is going to be a really good one to help at least start to define what's on the table.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like Matt is saying, like for the first 2 weeks, we wanted y'all to get to know who we are. Now that y'all have a little glimpse of who we are, let's talk about what we believe in and what really matters at the end of the day, which is our relationship with God and what that looks like.
And this question, I know that we're going to be talking about. You've been given it many times. I know I've been given it many times. And so you, at some point, our audience, have heard it, listened to it, asked it. And so today, Jordan and I are going to do the best we can to go with it. So.
Well, then let's stop this. Let's just get right to the show, man.
Oh, man, I just like the tease.
Okay, well, I know that Matt's been teasing how important this question's going to be, but at the end of the day, what we wanted to answer today... why don't you say, what is the question, Matt? What do we got?
So, are you guys ready? The question of the day is, why does evil exist?
That's big. That's a very big question, Matt.
I mean, I know when I was a kid, that at some point, everyone has come across this question. And this is a question that so many people deal with, struggle with, feel like they have to justify. And at the end of the day, I hope that our answers are going to be able to help with that.
Yeah, this is, like Matt was saying, this is a very big question that I feel like there's a lot of people that struggle with this, and just what God has to do in the midst of all this craziness going on. How does God exist when there's terror, when there's mass shootings, when there's all of these horrible things that are happening to people? Pandemics, yes. I think what I wanted to start with is there's this gentleman named George Carlin. He was a comedian. I don't know if I would recommend going and listening to him because he was a little bit on the edge when it came down to things that he talked about. He talked a lot about religion and things that most comedians would kind of step away from, but he wanted to be open and honest, and he had an open and honest conversation on the mic one night, and I kind of wanted to read that out to y'all and see if this is some thoughts that y'all also had. Now, I will mention that he, being a comedian and an older gentleman, he does use a couple expletives, some curse words and stuff. So instead of saying those words, I decided to replace that with the word puppy. So
puppy,
yeah,
okay,
just to have some fun, you know.
I mean, who doesn't like puppies?
Exactly, who doesn't like puppies? Okay, but George Carlin, he starts off with saying, "I want you to know, when it comes to believing in God, I really tried. I really, really tried. I tried to believe that there is a God that created each one of us in his image and likeness and loves us very much and keeps a close eye on things. I really tried to believe that. But I gotta tell you, the longer you live, the more you look around and you realize something is puppied up. Something is wrong here. War, disease, death, destruction, hunger, filth, poverty, torture, crime, corruption, and the ice capades. Something is definitely wrong. This is not good work. If this is the best God can do, I am not impressed. Results like these do not belong on a resume of a supreme being. This kind of puppy you would expect from an office temp with a bad temper. You have, and just between you and me, in any decently run universe, this guy would have been out on his all-powerful puppy a long time ago. Man, these are some George Carlin thoughts on God And these are probably some common thoughts that a lot of people have when it comes down to evil in this world.
I know I've talked to a number of people that have shared that same view of if God created all this, if God is so good, so powerful, so perfect, then why does all of this evil happen?
Yeah.
Why? So many times, why? And so today we're going to be doing the best we can because I know that there are a lot of people out there
Mm-hmm.
that would wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
Yeah.
And I think that if you don't know who God is, if you don't have a relationship with God, I think that that is your view on things,
Yeah.
particularly about God. And we'll be talking a little bit about some of that later, but today we're going to be just dealing with why does evil exist?
Yeah, to kind of tee up, this is going to be a topic that Matt and I are thinking about. We're going to do our best to answer basics of what evil has to do with God and the story there today, but probably next week or next episode, and maybe the episode after that, we'll continue this conversation. And I kind of just wanted to start off by talking about just three categories that potentially people fall into. And these are probably things that we're going to talk about in other episodes to come. When it comes down to evilness and why they think it is, when it comes down to God, they are probably either believe that God is lacking existence. So he isn't there, and that's why they're evil. That God is lacking goodness, which is why there is evil, or God is lacking power. And I think there's this quote by this 18th century Scottish skeptic, David Hume. He says, "Is he willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is impotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Whence then is evil?" In other words, if God is all powerful but not is all powerful but doesn't care, then he is impotent. If God cares but can't do anything about it, then then what is he here for? He's just a monster. If God it doesn't exist at all, what does it have to do with that? Or does God exist? Does he care? Is he actually powerful? And has he been doing something about it already that we don't even know? These are going to be things that we're going to try and talk about. But yeah, I'll let Matt, you take it away from here.
Well, so before we even take another step, I'm a word guy, and I know I want to talk about. So, what is evil?
Yeah.
I mean, when I ask anyone what is evil, man, that is kind of a question. It's the opposite of love, and just like we know with love, there's so many definitions. So for evil, I know that Webster says evil is profoundly immoral and wicked. Jordan, how would you describe evil?
Yeah, I think the definition that I've kind of come to for evil is that which should not be. And so in this definition, that means that there is a way that things ought to be.
Awesome. And I know that kind of translates into mine of evil is the lack of God. Because we see like cold is the lack of heat and darkness is the lack of light. We see that evil is simply just the lack of God because we know we have a good God. In fact, he is the only one that is good. Luke 18:19, Jesus talking says, "And Jesus said to him, 'Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone.'"
Yeah.
We can see that we have a good God. And when we're going with God, when God's plan is being active, it is good. And we see anytime we differentiate from that, we turn away from that, we see evil exist because it's not God.
Yeah, I think the thing that I wanted to add is that God is like the with there being God in the picture, that means that what am I trying to say here? I think I'm a little lost on the words.
Take your time. We got plenty. We got plenty.
Basically trying to say that God himself is the perfect standard of what is good. And his perfection shines out into the world and shows that which should not be.
Mm-hmm.
It's God's perfection is our standard of what we should know as what is good, and because of that, we are able to also know what is evil. But did God really create that evil?
So that's a good question.
Yeah.
Did God create the evil? Well, we see that first off, God is a God of love. 1 John 4:8, whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. He desired to create a person and eventually a race that would love him. But genuine love cannot exist unless freely given through free choice and free will.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, man was given the choice to accept God's love or to reject it.
Yeah.
We go back to the story of Adam and Eve, which everything was good. We see in Genesis that at the end of it, Genesis 1:31, God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. Not just good, but very good. We can see that God made Adam and Eve, and he gave them the choice of eating everything in the garden except from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
By disobeying God, they bring sin into the world.
Yeah.
Once they brought the sin into the world, they brought something that separates man from God. And everything from that moment to where you and I are here now, and for the future until God fully restores it, we live in a corrupt, messed up world.
Yeah, it wasn't God that created evil. It was Adam and Eve taking what they could do and creating that evil. And the same way that God made us to love, with that free will, we also have the ability to reject. And that's what Adam and Eve did. They rejected God in that moment, taking a bite of that fruit, and then deciding to run away and hide was their rejection. And that's where evil, like you said, entered in. And we, through all of our generations, are now corrupt. We have been brought into this evil. Another word that we use often, we've brought into this sin that has just ravaged who we are and has branded us. Yeah.
And even though all that did happen, and we as man were the ones that did bring evil into this, God chose to love us.
Yeah.
You know, God has consistently, time and time again throughout the Bible, been able to show that he loves us enough to let us live without him for a season. He always is there. He's always willing. He's always wanting to come back. Israel is a great example of a love-hate relationship of man and God, and how Israel, I love you, God. Okay, I'm going after this nice shiny thing over here. I love you, God. Now I'm going for this nice and shiny thing. And yet, every time Israel came back to God, he's like, I love you, I care about you, and I'm here for you. And in those times that you have wandered away from me, I am still here for you. But you're going to have to deal with those consequences. I mean, again, God, like you said, God created a standard.
Yeah.
Man, for our audience, I know at some point we'll talk about this in depth, but look at sex. Sex was a wonderful thing that God made. He purposely created it and designed it. And he designed it in a way for a purpose.
Yeah.
And when we do it in that way and that designation, it's great. Not that Jordan and I know anything, we're not married yet. But we know that there's that plan. But the minute you deviate from that, it's not good anymore, right?
Yeah.
So we can see that when Adam and Eve chose to rebel against God, he could have just wiped them out then and there. But he desired to be in a relationship with them, and he is going to figure out a way to bring in restoration down the line.
Yeah, I think the key word that you said there just a minute ago was chose. Like, God gave us this free will. God could have created us as robots to make us do everything that he wanted us to do, but and with that, it would have been a world without evil. But if it had no evil, it also would have been a world without love. It would have been a world without the intimacy and the relationships that God desires for us. So the free will comes from that. I am choosing to be in a friendship with you, Matt. That is something that I seek out and I desire and want to be friends with you. But if God just designed me and said, you're going to be friends with Matt, have fun with it, then I'd say hi, bye, and we do friendly like things, but there's no closeness with
Mm-hmm.
us. It's that choice that I'm continuously making each day. I'm going to pursue Matt as a friend of my own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's where the real love can come from. Yeah.
And man, you look at how many times we give God the wonderful opportunity to choose to love us. Because I
Mm-hmm.
know we consistently make mistakes, not only as mankind, but as individuals. And God all the time keeps saying, I'm choosing to love you. You're walking away from me. You're sinning against me. You are rebelling, but I love you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stay with you. He tells us that there's nothing that can separate us from His love. There is no
Mm-hmm.
sin. There is no evil act that we can do that will separate us from His love. Now that doesn't mean we should go do that,
Yeah.
but that's amazing. That's an amazing testimony of who God really is, not Greg Carlin's example.
Yeah.
We see a God that He did not create evil, He created us.
Mm-hmm.
And in creating us, He gave us that free will, and He knew the heartache, the problem that that could cause.
Yeah.
And He knew this is where we would go, and He knew how to fix it all.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've been thinking about that maybe somebody out there, and I know that myself was thinking about, and it's like, if God was to do away with the evil that's on this world, where would He start?
Man,
Would He start with you? How would you feel about that? I mean, what we really want is we want God to do away with all of these things that we think is evil. Like, we want Him to do away with terrorism. We want Him to get rid of mass shootings. We want Him to get rid of viruses and rape and anything out in that. We want Him to get away from that. But those, in all of those things, we are at the center of all that stuff.
mm-hmm.
I know that this is a harsh verse, but Paul writes in Romans 3:10, as it is written, no one is righteous, no, not one, not one understands, no one seeks for God, all have turned aside, together they have become worthless, no one does good, not even one. That's harsh,
That is, man, that is a 2x4 right to the kisser.
but it is a legitimate brand that we have on ourselves as humans, as we are born into evil. We have these desires. We're born into this evilness, and it will always consume us. We will always fall into pride and selfishness, lust and greed, which are really at the root of all of those evils, of all of terrorism, of mass shootings, of abuse. Pride, selfishness, and lust is all at the center of all of that. And those are things that we will constantly fall into. So the reason why evil exists is because we exist.
And God could justifiably just wipe us out.
Yeah, I mean Romans 6:23, the wages of sin is
It's death.
death. We could be just he could get rid of us easy peasy and never have to think about it again.
And He would be right in doing so.
But also, in Peter 3:9, it says, for the Lord is not slow to fulfill His promise, as some count slowness, but is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. God has a desire for us to come close to Him. He wants us, with our own free will, to pursue Him and choose Him. And in doing so, would guide us, would give us that grace, that love. I know that as a firm believer that Jesus Christ died on the cross for my sins, I know that God is saying, with that being said, you are coming home with me. You are now a part of the family of God. I am now one of His adopted sons. And it's only because I chose to do that. I decided I'm going to step away from some of my evil pride and selfishness and pursue Him. And that's what He has a desire for us. At the end of the day, He doesn't want to just get rid of us in one fatal swoop and get rid of all of the evil, because I mean, really, if there's no evil, then there's no love, and then there's no all of this. You get what I'm saying?
I totally,
Yeah.
and it's not what he wants to do because he
Yeah.
is love,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. And so with that,
Yeah.
man, evil, simply put, I think, is the absence of God.
Yeah.
Evil will be completely removed one day.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to remember not to focus on that evil, but to focus on God.
Yeah.
Because the more we keep our focus on Him, the less evil there is. Why?
Yeah.
Because evil exists in the absence of God.
Yeah.
And that's why Jesus told us to keep our eyes on God, to keep
Mm-hmm.
our eyes on the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you do that, everything else fades away.
Yeah. So really, that's why there's evil
Evil
in
exists.
this world,
Yep.
because we exist. But there is a hope. There
There's
is
always hope with
always a
God.
hope. And that hope came in Jesus Christ. Thank you. Thank God for him.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you for joining us for that question. It was a hard question.
Yeah.
And Jordan, I know today, based off of that hard question, you were wanting to kind of share a hard story. We're going into our story time. And man, I know that in all of our stories, we're not always going to be have happy, fun, go lucky.
True.
But, so tell us, what's your story for today?
Yeah, and I think to start off with, like I talked about a long time ago, I have been a part of youth ministry, but also one of my focuses for the last 3 years or 4 years has been college ministry. So while I was going to school here at Texas State University, I was a part of a home group and got to really get involved there. I became quickly a leader of that group and started to know others, and they started to look up to me very quickly. And that was such a fun and unique experience. And I'm still going through some of that today. I still keep in touch with my home group and stuff like that. But in the middle of all that, like in all ministry, there are going to be people that are hurting. There are going to be people that are struggling with evil in this world. And today I wanted to talk about one specific student of mine that I started having talks with. I'm not going to name names or anything, so I'm just going to say he and student. But pretty much, this student, him and I started to become really close. I had sought him out as somebody that I wanted to do one-on-one discipleship with. And I said, he's a really cool guy. I think he's kind of on the fringes of things. I think he's a little if-and on if I want to continue coming or not. So because I felt like he was going to be the best one for me to have one-on-one with, I pursued him. So I talked to him and I said, hey, would you be at all interested in meeting up once a week just to talk about life and any other questions that you have going on? And at this point, nobody had told me about that. I just knew that that was something that I should do. He reluctantly said yes, and he was thrilled to do that. And then this started this one-on-one journey with him where I would get to know this gentleman and come to find out and realize that, man, he has gone through a lot of hurt, a lot of troubles. He suffered a lot with depression and had a lot of anxiety going on in life. And at this point, him being at college alone for the first time, this being new to him, I think when I met him, he was a freshman and I was a sophomore going on junior year at that point. So I was a little bit older. But yeah, this was a whole unique and new experience for him. And he just wasn't the most socially aware when it came to stuff. So that kind of just led him to feeling isolated, feeling alone. And man, when I started to talk to him a little bit more, eventually things started to come up where he was starting to struggle with suicidal thoughts and tendencies. And I vividly remember having a conversation where I had to look at him in the eye and say, hey, do you want me to come and live with you and be a roommate with you just so I can stay here and keep an eye on you? He had said yes, and I started living with him. And about 6 months or so into living with him, I had to have another conversation with him where things weren't really getting much better. Those thoughts were still coming. I had tried to push him towards some Texas State counseling just to see if he could talk to some people outside of myself. And I had to look at him in the eyes and say, hey, I've seen your room. I know that's kind of a mess. I also know that you have some rope in your room and you have some things that could really hurt yourself in some troubling times. Do you want me to come in and take some of those things away from you? He had said yes, and I went into his room and grabbed said things. Um, I had never had to have a talk like that before, where I was talking with a student trying to express the love of Jesus Christ, trying to care for him. And in all the ways that I was doing that, I don't know if I was pushing him away or anything, but all of the ways in which that I was going about it didn't really seem to start penetrating what was really the problem. So I just had to be upfront and physical and just say, what can I do to start taking away things that could take your life? And in that moment, that was the Holy Spirit talking. In no way do I feel like I would ever have the courage to ask that question again. And that was a really hard one to ask. Um, since then, things have been okay. Um, I have now moved out of that house, not because of anything that he has done. I just needed to move on. That was a home group focused house. I'm now out of college. I wanted to kind of get a different place. I still talk to him every now and then. I still know that he struggles with loneliness, but man, there's some times whenever you're in this ministry and you have students that are just going through a lot of hard stuff. And going into each one of those meetings, praying and asking God, hey, can you please use me as a mouthpiece today? Because I don't know what to say. I don't know how to love this gentleman. Can you please help me? Because I need you to talk to him. I need you to express the love that you have for him so that I know that he, at the end of the day, can find out there's something worth living for here and that he really does matter to me for sure, but also to you, God. And man, yeah, I think I just wanted to say it's sometimes it's really fun being a part of ministry, and there's a lot of good stories and a lot of fun games, but there's also some hard times where you have to just ask some very tough questions. Yeah, I kind of felt like sharing that today.
Oh, thank you, man. Because, man, loneliness, feeling alone, being separated, those are some big things in our society today, in our world. And there is a point in everyone's life where you feel like, A, you're the only one that's going through this. That B, there's no one that's there for you. That everyone has failed you. Everyone goes through that. And that aloneness is a key issue. And I think it's great that you share, what did you do? Because now you're telling some people what can they do if they know someone that's struggling like this, if they know someone who is feeling alone, because that's where it starts. It always starts with feeling alone. That begins to separate themselves from others, separating from other Christians, maybe other believers. And then it also eventually can lead to suicidal thoughts and heaven forbid, suicide.
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome thank you for sharing, because you bring in what can you do. And one of the main things you mentioned was you didn't use the word, but you started discipling this guy.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, is we're all called to be in fellowship and to disciple others. And I think it's awesome that no one trained you. You didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And you just jumped on in.
Yeah.
Since then, I know you've discipled other people. Can you just kind of share real quick, when I'm saying discipled, what does that mean to you?
The way that I define discipleship is it's that I don't want to say the word magical, but it's that spiritual time of breaking bread together with another person And maybe you're not always breaking bread. Maybe sometimes you're just eating a burrito together, or other times you're just sitting on a couch and just talking about a random YouTube video you saw. But
We're in
there's
Texas. You gotta eat your
you
tacos.
got to get your tacos. But man, there's something special about having just one-on-one time dedicated to, hey, I'm going to ask you about how you're doing. I really want some honest answers, and I'm going to ask you, how is your walk with Jesus Christ going? What steps are you taking to further yourself, to grow in that relationship? How can I help you feel comfortable to be able to do what I'm doing with you, to where you can start going out to others? And discipleship for me has always just been, how can me and you, become really great friends and point our relationship towards Jesus Christ in the middle of it? And whenever I'm saying that, it's making me think, man, potentially the way that I'm corresponding these or making these happen is I'm trying to show them what it's like to have a really good relationship with anybody, of like, I really just want to know, really genuinely, who are you, what's going on in your life, and how are things going, because I care about them. And at the end of the day, I want them to see the love that Jesus Christ has, to accept that, and to want to share that with others. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And man, kudos, because I know that that's hard. Not everyone's willing to take on everyone's burdens. But if you're not getting messy, you're not in ministry.
Yeah.
Because real ministry is messy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really took the topic today to heart. My story is going to be, it's much more funny because I'll be telling about a day we played a game with my youth when I was in youth group.
Yeah.
Called Angels and Demons.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of got to my point. So you took it real deep, and I appreciate that, man. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, and for anybody else that's in the comments or just wants to text Matt and I, and you are also struggling with said things, feel free, talk about it, meet us, message us, let us know. We want to be able to help you. Even in the midst of all this, we would not mind getting a phone call, and if you feel comfortable, us coming over and giving you a big old hug, if that's what you want.
Remember, you are never alone.
Yeah.
You have a God that loves you, and he has many hands and feet, and we're willing to be those hands and feet of love.
Mm-hmm. There are plenty of demons out there in the world attacking you. But luckily, there's some angels coming on in, like in Matt's story.
Well, sort of, yeah. So when I was a youth, we played this game called Angels and Demons, and we were out in New Mexico. So we were staying with I think there was about 20 or 30 of us, including leaders,
Yeah.
in this big old log cabin. And we were playing this basically hide-and-seek game at night called Angels and Demons. We had two demons that would go and look for everyone else, and we had two angels that had flashlights. And the flashlight people, if you were within, it was like 5 yards of them or whatever, you were safe. So the demons couldn't touch you. And so they would shine their light so you could find your way to them. And if you got caught by a demon, the demon would take you to jail. And if you could if you could convert the jailer from a non-Christian to a Christian, everyone gets out. Typical youth pastor game, right?
How do you convert?
You have a conversation, and you have to bring up all these points, and you have to convince that person that they need Jesus.
So I gotta ask, did you have, whenever a new kid came, did y'all immediately play that game and put him in the role?
In my time there, we only played this game once.
Oh, okay.
And this is that one time. And so in this terrain, there's lots of trees, lots of bushes, but there's this little ditch that kind of ran at the edge of the property where we were playing. And this ditch was at least 6 feet deep. You could walk, run down it, and you would be completely covered.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pick up right there with Susan. Susan is in this little crevice, and she is trying to hide and just working her way around. It was kind of like a time limit game. You didn't want to get caught. I was not around this, so I'm just sharing this story from her perspective. And so she's in this ditch, walking around, trying to hide. She hears someone coming.
Okay.
She's like, oh crap, I don't know if this is friend or foe or what. So she like presses right up against the ditch. Okay. Again, 6 feet high, so she's fully covered. It's dark at night. You're looking down, you see nothing but pitch black, but she is just pressed up against it, and she's hearing this person come by. Is it friend? Is it foe? Who is it? And then she hears that it's Joe, and Joe is one of the demons. She's like, oh no, he knows I'm here, he knows I'm here.
Uh-huh.
And so she's sitting there and she's like, do I go? What do I do? And in this turmoil, as she's thinking, she hears zip. And then her mind completely changes to like, oh no.
Oh no.
And sure enough, a spout of water that is not a spout of water starts to go right over to her left, just missing
Oh, okay.
her. So this guy is relieving himself in the ditch with this girl right down there who neither can see anything, and she's just sitting there just almost getting peed on. And so now she's sitting there and she's just, her thoughts have gone from not getting caught to not getting wet. And also not only getting wet, but trying not to laugh. And that gets harder because as she's pressed up against the wall, still looking up, still trying to fathom this moment, Joe begins to talk. Joe starts to say as he's relieving himself, wow, the stars are beautiful tonight. Slight pause. You know, I'm glad this isn't a horror movie. Because if this was a horror movie, this is the part of the movie where something jumps out of the dark and eats my face off.
Are you serious?
I am so glad that Joe is, or Joe's saying, I'm so glad that this is not a horror movie.
Yeah.
Zip. And he walked away. And Susan is sitting there and she says, it was so hard for me not to laugh. Because I also knew if I started to laugh, I would probably have gotten wet.
Yep.
And just, it was so hard. And so I hear this story because at the end of the game, I did not get caught. Susan did not get caught. But when we all came back together for our midnight snack or whatever it was, Susan comes up to Joe and says, so the stars are beautiful tonight, aren't they? And he kind of looks at her and is just like, yeah. She goes, have you watched any horror movies recently? And then he gets it. And then she will share this story I have just shared with you with the rest of the youth group. Joe, for the record, thought it was hysterical.
Okay.
But, man, it was one of those times where it was...
that could have gone bad real quick.
In so many ways. I don't know if any parent ever heard that story, but I do know that we... I still remember it, and I still think it's hysterical.
Yeah, I probably, as a youth leader, probably would have made a pretty fast rule of no peeing in the ditch, or just go use the restroom. Don't pee anywhere.
Guys, any excuse to go outside. I mean, I'll take it.
I mean, I understand that, and I got to say, there's some stories whenever I was young. I remember the very first time that I peed outside. Now, that was a wonderful feeling, and my father, if he ever listens to this, is laughing because he remembers how much I was enjoying that.
Fair enough.
Oh, goodness. Why are we so weird?
Are you talking about us, guys?
Yes.
Well,
All right.
enough.
Well, let's get on to the next thing. Okay, Matt. Well, we have our last segment of today. Choose it or lose it. This is our time where we bring hot topics, where we get our hot takes of what's going on. Sometimes they're topical. Other times we're just really curious on whether we like Oreos or not. But today, I'm going to go, since I'm talking, why don't you go ahead, Matt, with our first hot topic for the
All
day.
right, and I am starting with something that is super hot. In fact, it's burnt.
Oh, gosh.
So everyone, this will often come up at some point in life, and the question is going to be, when you make a s'mores, choose it or lose it to burning the marshmallow, to getting it on fire,
Yeah.
so that, is that the right way or not? Choose it or lose it, burnt marshmallows.
I have, so I'm going to answer this. I would say at the beginning, you know what? I choose it.
Okay.
I choose it. I choose burning the marshmallow. At the first time that I burnt the marshmallow, it's because I wanted to feel power. and know that at any moment I can extinguish that power in one fatal...
Nice.
But then, after I ate that marshmallow that was burnt to a crisp, I decided, you know what, that actually isn't. That actually is pretty good. And then, because the way that a burnt marshmallow is, man, it makes it crunchy on the outside, but the best part is that center just becomes like this ooey gooey slime. And whenever you're just like slowly roasting it, you don't get that, man. But when you burn it, that thing's like peanut butter slathered onto a piece of graham cracker and chocolate. It is, ooh, it's so good, man. I am choosing burning a marshmallow.
Nice.
Yeah, so what about you, Matt? Are you going to choose it or lose it?
Man, for me, it's all about that ooey gooey center. So if it's burnt, if it's not burnt, as long as it's ooey gooey. So to get that, I think the best way is to burn it. So that's what I will do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, whether it's burnt or not, it has to be ooey gooey. If there's still that chewiness, you done it wrong.
Yep, nope, I fully agree with that. But, I mean, eating a raw marshmallow every now and then is pretty good, though.
Oh, that's a whole other story.
Okay. I was just making sure we're at least okay on that.
Marshmallows are always good.
Of course. Don't even get me started on Lucky Charms. Okay, Matt. Well, okay. I got a topic for you, and maybe we'll find out who our audience is with this kind of a question. But I'm curious. Now, I do have to admit, this is a College Station focused question.
Oh boy! Now, all right.
But I gotta know, because I myself lived in College Station for a couple years. I went to Blinn University, go Blindergarten, for the first 2 years, and then transferred to Texas State. But I got asked this question multiple times: am I choosing Lanes or Canes?
Oh man, that's a good one. And you don't even know this, but by asking me that question, I will lose friends on this answer.
And you may have to explain some of that to our younger audience that doesn't know the Lanes or Canes. Now, they may know Canes, but they definitely don't know Lanes.
No, so Lanes would be an Aggie who worked for Canes, is going to learn how they do it, what they do, and he's going to open up his own shop in College Station. You can still eat there today, and they do a great job. It is super similar, except they do what I always forget. So Canes does coleslaw, so that means Lanes would be doing the potato salad.
Yeah.
And so that's what the main difference is, but they're both very, very good.
Yeah, and Lanes and Canes, they're both chicken finger restaurants.
You walk in, if you do not know the story, you do not know that they're separate, you would assume that they are the same place.
Exactly.
But choose it or lose it to Lanes. I will be choosing it absolutely, because there's something just a little bit different in their sauce. Each one have their own home sauce. They each one do their chicken. They all great. But Cane's is just a little bit unique, a little bit different. Yes, I will confess, as a brother Aggie, he ripped it off. But he ripped it off well. Never order the coleslaw there, because they'll charge you. I think the last I saw, it's $1 million for their coleslaw.
Of course.
But man, if you're ever in College Station, go to Cane's. It is great. Or go to Lane's, sorry. And I always say go to Lane's.
Yeah, I was like, excuse me there.
Yeah, it is great food. And so I will absolutely choose Lane's.
Now, what y'all didn't see is the moment that Matt said Lane's, I was jumping and screaming with excitement, because I too am choosing Lane's. Oh boy, whenever I got to taste Lane's, their sauce, that's what makes it better. Is Cane's just has a whole bunch. It feels like there's a lot of pepper in Cane's sauce, but Lane's, there's less of that, and it's just more creamy.
It has a more distinct flavor.
Exactly. Now I will say Lane's buttered toast is just like a piece of bread with butter on it, as opposed to Cane's, they got that little Texas toast. There's some give and take, but if I'm in College Station and I need to go to a chicken joint, I'm going to be going to Lane's.
Well done. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. So breaking off of the topic of food.
Okay.
Now let's go into the world of literature.
Okay.
So I don't want to talk about the movie on this case. I want to talk about the books. So, Jordan, would you choose it or lose it to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the books, with Tolkien, the author?
Yeah.
Would you choose that or would you lose that?
Man, we love dividing our audience. So, I've never read the Lord of the Rings books. And to be honest, I don't really read a lot except when it comes down to the Bible.
Fair enough.
I am not a book guy. The moment I found out audiobooks were a thing, I've listened to those and I love that because I like hearing things rather than reading it. I am a video learner. I'm a visual learner. I do all that. So I have to admit, I have not read the Lord of the Rings books, but I have seen the movies. So I don't know if I could justify a choose it or lose it. I think I would choose it because I know that there's a lot of people that do like it and it has a great story. But I do not know the difference between the books and the movies.
Okay, well, for the record, the books are way better.
Of course, they always are.
In the movie, they always add some stuff, change some stuff. It's good. Don't get me wrong. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, the movies are my favorite movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the books are better. But you say a lot of people like it. I know that's why I chose it, because a lot of people don't like it.
Oh, really?
Because Tolkien was so descriptive in so many different things. Like, there's a constant joke that you'll have to go through 2 or 3 pages to figure out the scenery, because he will describe every leaf, every mountain, every flower that is there. And then he'll talk about the main part, and even to the parts of talking about some of the battles. I mean, a whole battle can be on 1 or 2 pages. The equivalent of just describing the opening scenery to where you're at. So for that, that's why I was curious of what would you choose it or lose it, because there's actually a lot today, especially a lot more people seem to not like it as much. But I will choose it. I love Tolkien as an author.
Okay.
I thought it was a great book series. I've read it multiple times. Like you, mostly these days I read spiritual stuff or the Bible or spiritual books. But that is one I will definitely be reading again at some point, and I will thoroughly enjoy reading it to my children. So I will be choosing it.
Okay. Okay. Well, okay. To go continue on to the purest form of literature and what I've heard described as beauty and a masterpiece with explosions. I must know, Matt, are you going to choose it or lose it on the Transformer movies?
Oh dear God, you bring that up.
Purest
All right.
literature.
Purest literature.
Michael Bay at his finest.
Oh my gosh, page, bang, next page, bang, bang, next page, bang, bang. Great literature.
Fourth page, boom.
And then fifth page, explosions.
Oh, gosh.
So, growing up, I got to watch some of the Transformers before the modern Transformers franchise came out. So I had the good stuff to begin with. And I did enjoy the first 1 or 2 Transformers. I will say that.
We're talking about the Shia LaBeouf Transformers,
Yes,
right?
I'm talking about the Shia LaBeouf. But I would lose it for the aspect, man, I enjoy the explosions. I like, it is definitely I'm going to do this the best I can to say this lovingly, but it is you can sit there and enjoy it and not have to pay attention, not have to really think too much. You don't really need to follow the story. It just looks really good. But when you get in depth and stuff, you lost me. And I'm a guy that loves a good story. I'm less about the big explosions and fancy graphics and all that. I always will take a story over all of that. I think of a movie called Hidalgo, which is a story about a horse and a cowboy riding and going through the desert. I don't think they had more than a few special effects. It was just a really good story and a really good movie with Viggo Mortensen. So check that out. But for that, I mean, I will lose the Transformers. There's a chick flick. If I have to choose between a chick flick and Transformers, I will choose the Transformers. But then it takes that extreme for me to be like, I'm going to choose Transformers.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I'd probably choose a chick flick. But in saying that, I may have showed my hand earlier by talking about Transformers in its truest form of literature. that I'm choosing Transformers.
Fair enough.
Now, I will admit, I am a movie watcher who loves things like Inception and Interstellar. Like, I love things that are big and you really got to think about it, and you're like, whoa, this movie makes no sense. But I'm really like, I'm trying to understand, and now I have to watch this movie 3 times to finally figure it out. I like those movies. But I also just love it when I can just turn my brain off and just watch things explode every now and then, and just cool. That's a robot that turned into a yellow Camaro. That's the dopest thing I've ever seen. And I mean, if I could just take a compilation of all of the transforming scenes of just them going from cars into robots, man, that'd just be pure joy on my face. It's just so great. It just looks so cool, man. So I'm choosing it. Now, I will admit the stories are terrible and the movie is probably not that great, but sometimes just to have something just to turn your brain off and just not think about things, it's great for that. So I'm choosing it.
Fair enough.
Okay, I think we got one more each.
Yep, one more each. So with this one, I'm going to be asking you. We've been using a little bit of this with youth, but it's really filled in a niche that is hard to find. Yeah. That is a lot of fun, is very, very funny, but a lot of people don't know about it, I don't think. And that's Jackbox party games. Would you choose it or lose it to Jackbox party games?
Oh, I'm hardcore choosing it. I think, so Jackbox themselves know that I'm choosing it because I own every single Jackbox party pack from 1 to 6. And what Jackbox is, for people who don't know, it's like a whole bunch of board games put into different packs. So pack 1 has 5, each pack has about 5 different games to play. Yeah. And like the most recent one, 6, has a murder trivia game where it's a trivia game, but it's horror themed and scary, and whenever you get a question wrong, you go to the killing floor, which is you play a mini game for your life, and then if you pass, you just turn into a ghost, but then you can still come back and win the game at the very end. But it's all about just random trivia, and boy, do they ask the most random questions.
Man. So that's one version.
Yeah, and then they also have coloring games where you can, things like Civic Doodle, where they draw a line, and then they say, okay, 2 people add to this line. Now vote on which drawing is the best, and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I know with our youth, I think we started with a line, and then it turned into an alien from outer space.
That's right.
Jumping off the moon. I don't know. It got crazy. And then I think there was I don't know what it was, but it just got weird real quick. But I am choosing Jackbox mostly because it's a great thing for any get together. Mm-hmm. Most of them can go from about 6 to like 10 to 100 on one game. And the super cool thing is, even if I bring it over to family, and I do this with my own parents, there's family filters, and there's things that I can turn on and off just to make it more family friendly and user. I know that with us, we use the family
filter.
Yes, for that one. Because there can definitely be some interesting topics that can show up. Mm-hmm. So we use that. But boy, I'm picking it. Picking it for youth, picking it for any get together. I'm picking it all in general. And whenever 7 comes out, I'm probably going to buy it.
I would absolutely choose it. It does a great job because one thing I love is you can play this on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and your phone, and it could be all at once. All you need is a device that can connect to the internet. Someone has to host the game. You get a code to enter the room is what they call it. Mm-hmm. And then you pick your player's name, and as long as your device has internet access and you can type/draw, which on a console you can use the sticks. On a touchpad you use your finger. Anyone can play this game.
Exactly.
Even people that are technologically challenged. If you can get them on the game, they can participate. They can win. And it's just fun. It's funny. It is great for any type of a family gathering. Mm-hmm. If you have your friends on over, especially right now with COVID, the quarantine's about to be done. But man, next time you're stuck in your house for a prolonged period of time, this would be a great way to pass it with your friends and family.
Yeah,
So I will absolutely choose it as well.
totally choosing it. It's a
All right,
great.
man. So you got the last one. So bring it here,
Okay,
right over the
okay.
center plate.
I don't know if this is going to be a fastball, Matt. This may be a curveball, but I want to know. Choose it or lose it. TikTok.
Oh man, that's a screwball. That's what that is.
Yeah, I
Oh
mean, I have no. Do you even have a TikTok account, Matt?
no, I do not. I have
Ooh.
seen TikTok. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I had to look it up to see exactly what it was. I knew it was a social media deal.
Uh
I
huh.
knew based on the videos I saw kind of the theme, but I wanted to know what is this versus Twitter versus Instagram. So I had to actually look it up to see, and I will absolutely lose it. I will absolutely lose TikTok for me for a couple of reasons. One, I am musically challenged. I am not very good with witty videos. I'm decent with sayings. I'm decent with some other things,
Uh huh.
but there is no TikTok challenge video thing I've seen that I would be able to participate in, would care to participate in,
Yeah.
and just with all of that, it is definitely not my thing. Now, I am also a guy that does not like social media in general, but for TikTok, I would, if I even knew one of the ones, I would try to insert here, say lose it, but I'm just losing it, man.
No, I get that. I get that. I know that I have decided to go into the threshold, and I downloaded TikTok and created an account.
Oh dear God, have mercy on your
Uh,
soul.
Now, the one day that I decided to download it is so far been the one day that I've used it. I'm a person who likes to go on Reddit, which is just a lot of the best posts from a lot of people, and that's all I really put it onto is what's the best stuff, so I don't have to look through some of the really weird and messed up videos that are also on there. But no, I decided I wanted to look at TikTok because I knew that there's a lot of our students that
Mm-hmm.
are already on it. I know that there's a lot of them that are doing TikTok dances and that are making videos. And I was just curious if I'm going to be a part of this ministry, I really need to know where the students are at. I know that they used to be on Facebook, now they're getting older, now they're on Snapchat, and now they're getting off of Snapchat and they went on Instagram, and now they're getting off of Instagram and they're going to TikTok. And TikTok right now seems to be the big giant. So, what do I need to know about TikTok to be able to talk to them in a I know what I'm talking about TikTok kind of way? Now, so that's I would choose it because I know that that's just where the students are at, and I think for us in the future with Solid Rock, I know that I at least have the intentions of trying to make some TikTok videos. They may not be the funny, witty us doing a dance one, but at least posting some things that happen probably in youth group or some weird incidents and just having fun with it. Hopefully to encourage people, hey, Solid Rock is more than just Bill and Matt. It's a community of people that are
Absolutely.
unique and have fun, and here's a little bit of the deep dive on into it. So I'm choosing TikTok.
Well, and when that happens, I do know we have a number, like you said, youth that are on TikTok, and I could think of a few of them that would probably be very willing to join you. I know that they've been enjoying it, so that sounds like a great idea. You have my blessing. Move forward in that direction. I will deal with other situations, but you can go
Go
and
forth
jump
and
in and out.
prosper.
Go forth and prosper and multiply, good friend.
Oh, yeah, we'll see how the multiplying works. Okay, well, that's been choose it or lose it this week. I had a really fun time, Matt. This was a lot of fun.
This was good, and man, please let us know if you're listening. Man, leave a comment. We'd love. I'm hoping that you're getting to see kind of where we're gearing this towards.
Yeah.
And man, any feedback you could give us, we'd love because we want to be gearing this towards you guys. And especially, I hope today, one of the main things I hope you get out of it is the questions that we're wanting to answer. We know you have questions, and that's great. We all have questions. I've been studying the Bible for over 20 years. I still have questions. Please give us your questions so that Jordan and I can talk to you and be able to say, hey, to the best of our ability, here's the answer. And if we don't know the answer, we're going to look it up. We
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that this is geared towards helping you better understand who God is. How do you live life? What's the meaning of life? All those questions. So, man, we'd love to be a resource. So make sure, leave it in the comments, leave us questions. And I mean, in the last
Yeah.
few weeks, we've had you guys just, vote on the name, which we're hoping to have the name here shortly. I know that we've asked, how do you want us to do certain things? And so today we're asking you, just make sure, if you're watching, would you leave us a question? So
Yeah.
that in the next few weeks, we could start talking specifically to what you guys want to hear.
Exactly. Start. We would love to know what is something that you guys are wanting answers to. The main goal that Matt and I. This isn't just for us just to talk. This is for us to be a resource for y'all. So we don't want to just answer questions that we think y'all are asking. We want to know what y'all are asking. But with that, we talked about what is up with God and evil this today. We're probably going to continue a little bit more on that topic next week. And yeah, if any questions, we'd love to go into it and go in depth on it. But thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to just like the video, share it with your people, find it wherever it's at. And we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.